Hello and welcome to part 4 of CSS Introduction. Today we're going to be looking at positioning elements. So one of the most important parts of web design and page design is positioning. Right now our site has a very horrible layout, and positioning will help fix that. So for example, it's just all one list really, just one after another. There is no layout to it, there is no format. So today we're going to be looking at different ways to position different properties and elements. As a side note, the methods we're going to be looking in this part aren't all the methods there are for positioning. There are namely two more advanced topics called Flexbox and Grid, and they're a whole other course, so you can check it out if you want and learn that. I would advise it, but for now we're going to be sticking to the basics. There exists a position property that we can give to any HTML element, and by default this gets a value of static. So if I were to come into my list, I'm just going to target an li because I don't want to target the button as well, and I gave it a position of static, and I save that and I come in and refresh. You'll see nothing changes. That is the default value. Every single element we have here has a position of static. Another position we can use is relative. Relative is very similar to static. Let's write this out. So position of relative. So it's very similar to static, but there is one difference. We can use left, right, bottom and top properties. So if I refresh that, nothing changes. But if I now come in, it allows the use of left. So I can say left of 100 pixels. And I'll save that. And you can see they all move away from the left 100 pixels. It is a bit confusing if you have a right, I'll do a top of 100 pixels. It means that it's going to move away from the top by 100 pixels. So I'll just reset that to the left. So it's moving 100 pixels away from the left. And obviously there's left, right, bottom and top. Another we can use is fixed. We can use a position of fixed. Now fixed is very helpful for creating things like a navigation bar. Basically every site that you've been on the web, on the internet, will have one. Not every site will, but most sites will. It's the top navigation bar where, like example, Facebook's got all the buttons at the top, and when you scroll down it stays at the top. So as you can see when I'm scrolling, a website dedicated to dogs gets hidden, and we can fix that with a position of fixed. So if I actually come in here and save, and then I refresh, you'll see that the elements all get squished up. This is just because I have simply applied the position of fixed to each of the LIs. I could apply it to the OL instead, and I'll refresh, and they are under that photo, but they are less squished up. What this allows us to do is stick it to the page, and the best way to showcase this is to just control and scroll and zoom in, so we can fake the scroll bar, which is like more content on the page. And if I scroll down, you'll see that at the bottom here, they are staying in the exact same place. There you go. So it stays in place. Lastly, for the position property, we can use a value of absolute. Absolute is the same as fixed, but it's got one key difference. It is relative to the parent. And what I mean by parent is, let me just get rid of this for now and save. So the parent and child relationship. So each of these LIs is inside of an OL. So if I come into the HTML, we can see that each of these is inside the OL. So that means that the LIs are the children of the OL, and the OL is the parent of the LIs. It's also very common to call the parent a container. So the OL contains all of these elements here. So if I was to give, say, the OL a position of absolute, and then I just imagine I could click and drag the OL around, the LIs would follow with the OL. But if I were to scroll down, they would also remain still. So they are fixed to the parent. Now these all may seem a bit unnecessary, but once you start to build more complex sites, the use of them will become a lot more obvious. But it's good to know them from the get-go. Now there was one more property to look at, and that is called float. A float determines where an element is placed inside of its container or the parent. And a float can take a property of left or right. So if I come into I'll target an li, and I give it a float of left. I'll give it a float of right, actually. And I'll save that and refresh. You'll see they all come along to the right-hand side of the page. The reason that they're all going to the right-hand side fully of the page is because the OL is the size of the page. We haven't specified the size of the OL. If, for example, I brought the OL to only be this width here, up to here, from here to here, and I set it to right, then all of the LIs would only sit here. They wouldn't sit to the end of the page. But we'll look at size and elements in the next part. And that's it for positioning. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next part.